What if the habits you form today are making you look older, feel lonelier, and push the people you love far away? Not illness, not age, just habits. Here are 6 of them that silently age you faster than any birthday ever could. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Let us begin. 1. Constantly complaining about everything. My dear friends, let me start with something you have probably witnessed yourself. 2 people walk into a room. One lifts the energy instantly. The other drains it without saying a word. The difference is not how many years they have lived. The difference is what those years have done to their attitude. One of the most common habits slowly making elderly people appear older and deeply unhappy is constant complaining. It begins quietly. First the weather, then the noise, then food not tasting right, then young people lacking manners. Before long, complaining stops being a reaction and becomes a daily ritual. Here is what makes this particularly dangerous. The human mind strengthens whatever it repeatedly focuses on. When someone trains their attention toward everything wrong, the brain begins filtering out everything right. Even when something genuinely good happens, it passes unnoticed because the mind is already hunting for the next problem. Over time, this rewires how a person looks and behaves. Their face carries frustration, their voice sounds irritated, conversations grow heavy, and then something painful unfolds. People begin stepping away, not because this person is unloved, not because they are unkind, but because constant negativity is emotionally exhausting to absorb. Picture visiting a relative who greets every visit with the same refrain. Life is terrible, nothing works. People are useless. Everything is falling apart. Even the most devoted family members eventually start shortening their visits. Not from cruelty, but from emotional survival. But here is the beautiful truth hiding inside this problem. Complaining is a habit, and habits can be replaced. Gratitude does not demand that you ignore difficulties. It simply invites you to keep your eyes open for what remains good. Think about this honestly. A person at 70 years old has already lived through thousands of precious moments, deep friendships, hard lessons, and remarkable growth. Choosing to focus on those blessings creates genuine warmth. Grateful people radiate something unmistakable. Their presence feels calming. Others enjoy sitting beside them because they leave every conversation feeling lighter rather than heavier. Gratitude even changes how a person physically presents themselves. Expressions soften, posture opens, the voice becomes warmer, they appear younger, not by the mirror, but in spirit. My dear friends, life hands everyone reasons to complain. But it also hands everyone reasons to feel grateful. The gap between a joyful elder and a bitter one often comes down to this one daily decision. Focus on what is missing or appreciate what still remains. Those who choose gratitude discover something extraordinary. Their years may accumulate, but their spirit refuses to grow old. 2. Talking only about illness and problems. As people age, health naturally rises in importance. The body shifts, energy transforms, and medical concerns sometimes emerge. But there is a habit quietly aging many elderly individuals faster than any diagnosis ever could. The habit of making illness the entire conversation. You ask someone how they are feeling. Immediately, a medical summary begins. The knees are terrible. Blood pressure is climbing. Sugar levels are unstable. Back pain is relentless. Health struggles are absolutely real, and they deserve genuine care. But when every exchange circles back to symptoms, something far deeper begins shifting. Sickness slowly becomes the whole identity. Instead of being remembered as the family storyteller, the wise elder, the grandfather with the sharp humor, or the grandmother whose advice always landed perfectly, the person becomes defined almost entirely by their health complaints. And that identity reshapes the mind in powerful ways. The human brain responds intensely to repetition. When someone constantly rehearses weakness, limitation, and pain, the mind reinforces all of it. Energy drops further. Motivation fades. Hope quietly exits. But the most devastating consequence is social. When every conversation gravitates toward illness, people start feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Family members may begin shortening visits, not from indifference, but from helplessness. They arrive wanting to laugh, connect, and share real life. But the conversation always returns to disease. Slowly, the person feels isolated and deeply misunderstood. But aging was never meant to shrink life down to a list of symptoms. So much still exists worth discussing. Childhood memories carrying vivid colors, stories from decades of work, hard-earned wisdom younger generations cannot locate inside any textbook. Advice, hobbies, spirituality, curiosity, ideas still taking shape. Elderly people hold extraordinary depth that the world genuinely needs. When they choose to share it, they transform from patients into mentors. Of course, discussing health when necessary is completely appropriate, but life must not collapse into a collection of medical updates. The most inspiring elders acknowledge their challenges and then deliberately refuse to let those challenges own them entirely. They pursue learning, they stay curious, they engage conversations about life rather than only about suffering. People leave those conversations feeling energized rather than depleted. And that is the real heart of aging with grace. Health will inevitably change, but the human spirit can remain brilliantly alive. Someone speaking about dreams, wisdom, and gratitude always appears more vibrant than someone speaking only about pain. Because ultimately, people remember how your presence made them feel. 3. Refusing to adapt to the changing world. Every generation quietly believes their era was the finest era. That is deeply human. Older people often reflect aloud that respect existed more genuinely in their time. That life carried more simplicity. That technology has dismantled something precious. And perhaps certain parts of those reflections carry real truth. But refusing to adapt to a world that keeps moving can slowly leave a person feeling cut off, frustrated, and profoundly alone. The world transforms continuously. Technology reshapes communication. Society evolves in how people work, connect, and find meaning. For younger generations, these shifts feel natural. For many elderly individuals, they can feel overwhelming and threatening. So some people respond by rejecting everything unfamiliar. They decline to understand smartphones. They avoid digital conversations entirely. They dismiss modern ideas before genuinely attempting to understand them. But this resistance builds invisible walls. Consider a grandfather who refuses to learn video calling. His grandchildren live across cities and communicate almost entirely through phones. Because he will not adapt, connection quietly disappears. Another grandfather makes a different decision. He learns a simple video application. Suddenly, he can watch his grandchildren grow, laugh with them across distances, and remain genuinely present in their lives. The difference was never intelligence. The difference was openness. Learning continuously keeps the mind sharp and engaged. Research consistently confirms that curiosity and active learning help preserve mental clarity throughout aging. But beyond brain health, no adapting maintains social connection in real and meaningful ways. When elderly individuals show genuine interest in the modern world, younger people genuinely enjoy their company. Conversations come alive because both generations are offering each other something valuable. The older generation contributes lived wisdom and perspective earned through decades. The younger generation contributes fresh knowledge and contemporary thinking. That exchange builds mutual respect naturally. But when someone relentlessly criticizes every new development, younger people begin feeling judged and misunderstood. Gradually, they stop sharing. A painful generational gap opens quietly. Here is an important truth about growing older. Age does not mean growth ends. The happiest elders are often those who keep learning deliberately. New hobbies, new ideas, technology explored one careful step at a time. Curiosity about the world they still inhabit. That curiosity keeps their minds alert and their personalities genuinely magnetic. The goal is never abandoning traditional values. Those values are precious and worth protecting. The goal is simply remaining flexible enough to understand a world that keeps changing. A tree that bends through the storm survives. A tree that stands completely rigid often breaks. People who stay open to learning continue feeling relevant, connected, and fully present. And that openness brings something irreplaceable into old age. The feeling of genuinely belonging in the world they still live in. 4. Interfering too much in their children's lives. One of the most tender challenges aging parents face is learning how their role must evolve as their children become adults. When children are young, parents guide every step. They shape values, make critical decisions, protect against mistakes, and provide constant direction. But when children reach adulthood, something essential changes. They must begin navigating their own choices independently. Many elderly parents struggle painfully with this transition. Because their love is genuine and their concern is deep, they continue attempting to influence their children's decisions long after those children have built their own worlds. They may criticize parenting styles. They may question financial directions. They may insist their approach remains the only reliable one. These comments emerge from honest intentions. Parents genuinely believe they are helping. But from an adult child's perspective, continuous interference communicates something unintended. It communicates distrust. Picture being an adult who has built a career, raised children, and taken genuine ownership of your life. Yet every significant decision still faces questioning. That experience becomes suffocating over time. Tension builds slowly. Children begin filtering their conversations to avoid conflict. Visits grow shorter. Communication becomes guarded instead of warm and open, and the elderly parents feel confused and wounded. They wonder why their children seem distant. They truly only wanted what was best, but love must evolve as children grow. When children are small, love guides. When children are adults, love supports. That distinction carries everything. Wise elders genuinely understand this difference. Rather than pushing unsolicited advice, they offer perspective only when it is genuinely invited. Rather than questioning decisions, they demonstrate trust in their children's capacity to learn through living. This creates something remarkably powerful: respect. When adult children feel genuinely respected, they naturally move closer to their parents. They share difficulties voluntarily and seek wisdom freely. But when they feel managed, they quietly withdraw. The most peaceful families are built around elderly parents who shift their identity from controllers to mentors. Mentors do not dictate every direction. Mentors listen carefully, understand deeply, and offer perspective with humility. This role carries far more real influence than control ever produces, because wisdom offered with gentleness is always welcomed home. Parents who embrace this transformation often discover their relationships with their children deepen into something richer than before. Conflict gives way to cooperation. Criticism transforms into appreciation. Distance dissolves into genuine closeness. And that is the profound beauty of relationships that continue evolving. A parent's greatest achievement was never controlling their children indefinitely. It was raising them with enough strength and wisdom that they could walk their own path while remaining deeply grateful for the foundation they were given. 5. Living in the past too much. Memories are among life's most extraordinary gifts. As people age, they carry decades of experience, stories, and hard-earned lessons that younger generations genuinely cannot imagine holding. Revisiting the past brings warmth, nostalgia, and a sense of earned pride. But when someone begins living only inside the past, something quietly heartbreaking begins happening. The present starts feeling hollow and irrelevant. Many elderly individuals find themselves in a constant loop of comparison. In our time, respect for elders was genuine. Life moved with more simplicity and meaning. Everything worthwhile existed back then. While these reflections may carry partial truth, dwelling inside them continuously creates a quiet dissatisfaction with everything present. The mind becomes anchored in yesterday's version of the world and loses its ability to find meaning today. This habit slowly creates emotional distance from current life. Imagine sitting beside someone who consistently returns every conversation to memories from 4 decades ago. The stories feel interesting initially, but when every exchange retreats backward in time, genuine present connection becomes difficult. Younger generations want to share their actual lives, real struggles, and current dreams. But when conversations always drift toward the past, those connections weaken and eventually thin out. The happiest elderly people carry a different relationship with memory. They honor the past deeply without living trapped inside it. They share stories when those stories genuinely add to the conversation, but they also stay genuinely present in today's world. They learn about their grandchildren's passions. They discover new activities. They remain curious about what is unfolding around them right now. This balance keeps life genuinely meaningful, because life never stops offering fresh experiences simply because someone has reached a particular age. Many extraordinary people discover completely new passions after retirement. Some begin painting for the first time, some lose themselves in gardening, some write memoirs or mentor younger people in their communities. These pursuits build new memories and keep the spirit genuinely lit. The past becomes a foundation rather than a cage. Think of your life as a book still being written. Earlier chapters may shine with beauty and meaning, but the story is not finished. New chapters remain ahead. New people can still enter the narrative. New wisdom can still be gathered. People who embrace this fully often carry a visible youthfulness in spirit, because they remain engaged with life's continuously unfolding journey. Their eyes hold curiosity rather than regret. Their words carry forward momentum rather than backward longing. And this makes them extraordinary companions across every generation, because they remind everyone around them that life at any age continues moving beautifully forward. 6. Isolating themselves from people. Perhaps the most quietly devastating habit many elderly people develop is the habit of isolation. When retirement arrives, daily social interaction shrinks dramatically. Former colleagues disappear from everyday life. Children move to other cities chasing careers and raising families. Long-held friendships sometimes fade or end entirely. These natural shifts can gradually become overwhelming loneliness. Initially, isolation can feel like something chosen and peaceful. Many people convince themselves they are simply savoring quiet and personal space. But human beings are wired fundamentally for connection. We need conversations, shared laughter, and emotional presence in our lives. Without these exchanges, Both the mind and the heart begin slowly emptying. Loneliness starts working quietly against both mental clarity and physical health. Research has confirmed that prolonged isolation significantly increases vulnerability to depression, anxiety, and various physical conditions. But beyond any research finding, a simpler emotional truth exists. Life feels considerably lighter when shared with others. A brief joke exchanged with a neighbor, a cup of tea enjoyed with an old friend, a real conversation with family members who genuinely care. These moments appear ordinary, but they plant warmth in the heart that nothing else can replicate. Unfortunately, many elderly individuals gradually withdraw from these connections. They stop attending family gatherings. They step back from community events and social activities. Sometimes they feel genuinely unwanted. Sometimes belonging seems no longer available to them. But too often, this withdrawal solidifies into a habit that only deepens the loneliness it was meant to escape. Remaining socially connected is among the most powerful choices available in aging well. This does not demand large gatherings or exhausting social performance. Small, genuine connections carry tremendous weight. Evening walks that naturally invite conversation with neighbors. Community gatherings that create simple belonging. Time spent meaningfully with grandchildren. Participation in spiritual practices or volunteer activities that remind you your presence still contributes something real. These interactions sustain mental sharpness and keep the heart genuinely joyful. Social engagement also delivers something profound to elderly individuals specifically. It confirms that their presence still matters in the world. Their stories carry value. Their wisdom holds meaning that younger generations genuinely cannot find elsewhere. When elderly people withdraw into isolation, the world quietly loses something irreplaceable. When they remain engaged, they become pillars holding their communities together with perspective, patience, and hard-won understanding that only decades of living can provide. And something beautiful returns to them in exchange. Their lives remain filled with laughter, conversation, and deep purpose. Because at every age, the human heart was built for connection. Loneliness may silence the spirit, but meaningful relationships keep the soul endlessly alive.